In the early 1900s, Jewish people that lived in America struggled tremendously in their financial situation, not because they couldn't get jobs, but rather because they couldn't hold their jobs. Because if you were religious in America, there was no such thing as you can take off Shabbat from work. That meant that you got a job, you worked the whole week, and you were expected to come back and work on Saturday. And when you told your boss, listen, I'm Jewish, I can't work on Saturday, in those days, there was no such thing as religious freedom. Listen, you don't come on Saturday, I'm firing you. And that meant that every week, the religious Jews would get fired from a job and start off the whole new week, getting a new job, and then working and then get fired again. And many times, they couldn't find a new job, and literally would get to a point of starvation. They literally sacrificed their life in order to observe Shabbat. Now, you would think that all of those Jews had sons and daughters that were the greatest tzaddikim in the world. But you'd be wrong. Because some of those Jews that sacrificed their life to observe Shabbat every week had sons and daughters that went off the derech so far that they literally, some of them didn't even recognize who God was. Like Paro. How could it be? Rav Elchanan Wasserman writes in multiple places, the Ikvita, the Meshicha, he wrote it in once, where those parents that sacrificed everything for observance of Shabbat but yet had children that became Zionist communists. How could that be? It's because even though they made the sacrifice by not going to work, by getting fired every week, they didn't celebrate their servitude of Hashem. When they came home on Shabbat and had the dinner, instead of celebrating the opportunity of serving Hashem, they'd complain about it. What are we going to do? We're going to get fired again because we're Jewish, because we can't work tomorrow. We didn't ask Hashem to make us Jewish, but He made us Jewish. So what can we do? We have to keep Shabbat, We have to keep it. As if Shabbat, as if the Mitzvot, as if the Torah is a burden upon them. And from that, says Rav Elchanan Wasserman, they lost the blessings. Why? Because when their children heard that observing Shabbat, that observing Torah and Mitzvot is a burden, they didn't want to do it. And they didn't. And they abandoned ship. And they intermarried and assimilated and became the Hollywood of today. Some of the people that literally became big in Hollywood, creating Marvel movies and so on, used to go to yeshiva as kids. Some have died already. Some are old men, literally waiting for their days to end. But the stories of Marvel comics and many one came from the yeshiva, Rabotai. They just plagiarized the Midrash Me'am Loez and a couple of other places, put some different colors, and they made it into a Hollywood film. Where did they get the information from? It wasn't their imagination. They plagiarized the Torah. They plagiarized the Midrashim. They plagiarized the Gemara. How did they have knowledge of it? Because their parents used to be religious. But they abandoned ship the moment they could because they viewed the Torah and the Mitzvot as a burden. If you view the Torah and the Mitzvot as a burden, you could be certain that your kids are going to view it the same way, but unlike you, they won't stay committed to it. They'll abandon the burden. They'll abandon the thing that's weighing them down.